Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight for an Ancestry Thanksgiving. Okay, so I'm hoping that you'll take away from this some tips and tricks to make your tree a little bit more interesting to your family members that you're wanting to come in and join you or see the hard work that you've done. So it's got a little bit more draw to it, and also maybe inspires some people to get more involved in helping you decorate those. So we're going to get into that, but before we get started, I would like for everybody to kind of move your mouse around on your screen so that that bar pops up at the bottom, and in about the center there's an option for chat. Sina mentioned it just a moment ago, but if everyone will kind of click on that chat option so it brings up that chat window, I'm going to ask if you'll real quick for me, just type up 1 to 2 sentences introducing yourself to the group. These are really, really great and interesting, and this is exactly what I was looking for. So I wanted to do this kind of to make the point that when we're at a party or a social gathering or even a business function, and we walk up and introduce ourselves to somebody, very rarely do we say, "Hi, I'm Justice Cain, born in Chicago, 1973, living." We give something personal. We add an element. We take it out of data, and we say something that makes people want to ask us another question about ourselves, or create an interest that maybe makes them want to invite us to tea or coffee. We look for things that we have in common that we can relate to, and that make us real life people and not just statistics. And sometimes when we're newer at genealogy, or if we're just like really, really excited and focused on getting way back in history and finding out about those cool Revolutionary War ancestors, and maybe we're related to a king or a president, and we get focused on getting those DNA trees back as far as we can, and we lose sight of turning each of those generations into real living people of interest that somebody would want to ask more about. And then we get frustrated because we send out the link and we invite our family to come and view all of our hard work, and they don't seem very interested, and it's confusing. Look at everything I put on that tree. That's great stuff. Why aren't you interested? And it might just be that we haven't yet personalized these ancestors for them in a way that they can understand. So that's going to be a big part of today's session, is just figuring out how to draw those ancestors in and how to personalize it. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And there we go. Let me see, we're going to go ahead and get out of that and go to that. Okay. All right. Is everybody seeing the Macaulay family tree here? Not if you see it. Okay. So so a lot of times, you know, when we're in the right, and this is just a snippet from an actual, my actual tree, but I recopied it here to take it back to where I was, you know, a few years back, to where I kept growing these lines out here and finding the parents of the parents of the parents, but wasn't as concerned about making this visually appealing. So let's go into Ella here. And right now we can see that Ella was born in 1882 in Perryville, Missouri, and that she died in 1953 in Chicago. And that's great. We have her parents' names, we have her husband and her children, and even her siblings here. We have plenty of records for Ella too. We have her census records, we have a marriage record, even a draft record and city directory. So for me, I'm like, wow, this is a lot of information, and it's really exciting, and it feels like a whole lot's been done and a whole lot's been accomplished. But if I were coming in as a new person, not understanding Ancestry at all, I would be kind of looking at this and going, well, it's a lot of people and dates, and I don't know any of these people, and I'm not going to remember any of these dates. So this isn't This isn't grabbing me. And if I could go in and actually open up one of these records, I might say, okay, well, I've got a federal census here, and as a member and as somebody who knows what a federal census is, I know that if I scroll into this census and I find Ella here on the list, I know that I'm going to find a bunch of valuable information. Like, we see here that her mother is listed as the head of household instead of a father. And if we scroll out a little bit further, we see that it's because she's a widow. And that means that Ella lost her father at a young age. That's an interesting detail that somebody might want to know about, or you might want to include in a biography or note about Ella's life. And so that's interesting information. We also come out here and we see that she was 17 years old in this census, born November 1882. And if we're paying attention, we see that her brother, George, was also born November 1882 and is 17, making him a twin. Who doesn't love twins? So this is a great personal thing. But if we're sitting outside of this actual record, there's nothing on this page that tells me anything like that about her. There's nothing that would speak to me. And I might assume that one of my family members knows to go in and open this record and read it, but maybe they don't. And even worse than that is if I'm inviting somebody who's not already an Ancestry.com paid member, then this screen right here is as far as they're going to get. When they go to click on that record, what they're going to see instead of, let's see, where do we go here? Instead of that census record with all that valuable information, they're going to get this screen. And it's going to say, please sign up for a paid account. Because Ancestry is very, very gracious. They will allow you to build as big a tree as you would like, and you can put all the things on it and utilize it. But what you're paying for in the paid membership is access to all of these wonderful records. 20 billion records they have paid to copy and digitize and transcribe so that we have those available. So you can see them if you're a paid member, but if you are not a paid member, then you're not going to be able to open that. You're going to get that screen inviting you to activate an account. So what can we do? How can we make this information become visible quickly and easily to the family and friends that we're inviting to view the tree? The best way to get started is to actually utilize this timeline here. So in each one of these events underneath your timeline, you have the ability to open it up and add text and add images to make that a little bit more interesting, and to draw this information out of this record and put it into a readable format. So one of my favorite ways, and I'm not sure if they're going to allow me to do this in Zoom, but we're going to give it a try. One of my favorite ways to go about transcribing something, because it used to be super, super frustrating. You'd have to open the record up and look at the record and try and memorize it or write it down on a piece of paper and then go back into the other screen so you could open it up and type it in. But a really, really quick trick, if it will let me, it looks like it's going to, is we can open up, we can open up 2 copies of Ancestry, and we can go to the same page. Hold on, let me just open up that record first. Let's open up the marriage record here. Okay, and then once I have this record open, I can put my mouse right here in this top toolbar, and I can pull it over to the edge of my screen, and when I let go of the mouse, it's going to pop to half of the screen. So now I have this screen open, and I also have this screen open, so that now I can click on my edit button, and I can get that edit page, and I can also see my record at the exact same time. So when I'm typing the information in over here and I say Ella and Leo married on November 5th. Whoop, not 45th. 1900, and whatever other details I want to add. Now you've got a limited amount of space in this particular text box, so you might have to, in some cases, think through carefully what you're going to want to say and how to say it so that it can all fit in here. The other option that you have, so let's just go ahead and hit save on that real quick. The other option that you're going to have is you can break it out into separate things. Let's say, you know, I have the date here of when Ella when they got the license. And there's a really interesting note here from her mother giving her permission to marry. And that's something that I might want to include over here. But if I'm putting all the details of the wedding and including the officiant and all of that information into the marriage field, I might not also have room to add this note about the marriage license. So what I can do is I can come to this field here and I can click add, and it's going to let me select from a great list of pre-established events, common events that you might have. So I could go through and I could look to see, and maybe I might want to put this underneath engagement, because often, you know, the date of the license will get recorded as the engagement date. But I also have the option of just hitting custom event, and then I can type in whatever label I like. So I can type in here marriage license, and I can put that they got the marriage license on, was it the 3rd? Yeah, the 2nd. Okay, so on the 2nd of November, 1900, they were married, or they got the marriage license in Perryville. And oh, why is this being difficult for me today? Okay, so they got it in Perryville. Now I might want to add this note in and just say, and this is interesting because if we go back and we look at Ella's birthday, we see that she was born on November 5th, 1882, which means she was actually married on her 18th birthday. And yet the marriage license was obtained just a couple of days before her 18th birthday, causing her to need a note from mom. So, so that's an interesting little thing that I would probably want to type up here and add a note. We'll do it real quick now. But you would want to get into making an interesting note about that.
Excuse me, Justice.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a question that says, I write what's on the census in the description area, and then how do you add something besides text in that field?
Well, we're going to get to that in just a minute. In fact, that's the very next thing.
Thank you.
Not a problem. All right. So let's go ahead and close out of this and make this screen big again. Okay. So now if we've gone through and we've taken all of the information out of the census, and if you're adding the information from the census, you know that sometimes that can be broken out into many different fields here to get all the data sucked out of each record and put into this timeline. But once you've done that, like you said, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add some media. So before we get started on adding media, I do want to make a quick note about the importance of putting citations on anything you upload. If you're uploading a copy of a picture or a copy of a newspaper article or even a record, you want to first save it to your file wherever you keep them on your computer, but make sure to open it up and add a little citation to it. It's real frustrating when people start sharing digital images, and they're great images on Ancestry, and you see them pop up and you see your ancestor's name attached, but you're like, well, I don't know where you got this from or why you're so sure that it's this particular ancestor. And so putting in a citation can really help with that. And a quick, easy way to do that, for those who don't already know, is if you were to, let's go ahead and just borrow this one, right click on any picture you want to add a citation to and move up to open with, and then go out to paint. Most computers come loaded with paint. And I think Apple has their own version. But then you have the ability to click on the text button here, and you can add a text box anywhere you want and type out your citation. If it's a picture and you're concerned about putting it right on top of the picture, you can come here and grab this, and it actually extends the image. You can also do it out to the side if you'd rather do that. And then you can put your text box wherever you want it and add your citation. And then just remember to hit the save button, and it will save the original image with that citation now on it. So I'm not going to save that one though.
Can you quickly show that? Can you quickly show that again?
Yes, absolutely. So you're going to find the picture that, let's take this one. You'll find the picture you want to add the citation to, and you're just going to use the right button on your mouse and click, whoop, let me click back on that. Okay, use the right button on your mouse and click on it, and you'll get this menu. About halfway down the menu, you see there's a button that says open with, and when you put your mouse on it, another menu will pop out to the side. You're going to go down to the paint feature, and your button or your picture is going to open in paint. Now, if your picture is really, really large like this, it might be hard to kind of get to the bottom to grab at this. There's a slide scale over here that allows you to just reduce the size of that picture for a minute so that you can see it. And then you can grab that box or that little button on the end here, and you can just stretch it out as big as you need it. You're going to click this text button up here, and then you're going to put your mouse and just draw out that box to the size you need, and then you can type out your citation and put all the information you need into it. When you're done, you can shorten this back up if you want to clean it up, or you can leave more space. It's completely up to you, but just remember to hit this save button up here in the corner, and then when you do, if you close out of this and reopen it now, you'll see that that's been saved to the bottom of your screen. So it's just a real quick, easy way to throw a citation on those pictures. It's going to help you remember where you got it from. If you forget, you know, you might have snapped it off somebody else's page. And then somebody comes along and says, hey, where'd you get that picture? And you're like, oh goodness, I don't even remember whose page I borrowed that out of. I don't know where it came from. I can't authenticate it. So just do yourself that favor and throw that note on. All right. And then once you have that done, there are two different ways you can go about adding a picture to each and every one of these events. The first way you can do it is to go to the event itself. We're going to go back to the marriage here, and we're going to click on the edit button, and we're going to come here to the media button. And then we're going to click this button here that says upload media. And it's going to give us, if we had another window open or screen open, we could just drag it open, or we can click on it and search for what we need. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to go to the scrapbook, and we're going to, great feature if anybody doesn't know about it. This right here was the original wedding photo that was in my family book. I took it to MyHeritage's new colorize cleanup button. It's so easy to, it's literally a button you push, and it enhances your photograph, and it'll color it if you want it to. And now this is the new photograph. Is that incredible? I love the photo enhancer on MyHeritage. All right, so we click on the picture and it pulls it up into this screen for us. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is come over here, and the title, what you're going to see in the title box is whatever you named it in your file. So if that is not particularly how you want it to read for viewing here, you can go in at this point and you can just clean that up and be like, okay, I don't want the date in there. I just want, and I don't want the enhanced in there. Whoop. I just want wedding photo, Ella and Leo. It allows you to select what kind of is it a document? Is it a headstone? Is it a portrait? Other. So you have the ability to categorize it there. You can put in the date, the photograph, and all of this stuff is stuff you should be doing because this is going to show up next to the photograph. So if you have a public tree or if you are inviting family members and things to share your tree, this is helpful information for them to have, and it's really convenient to just go ahead and put it there, and you can add in a description. The other thing that you should do, and now this one is kind of an important thing. When we add photographs, we have a tendency right now on Ancestry to add this photograph first to Ella, and then to go to Leo's page and add the photograph again, and then to go to the maid of honor and the best man and add the photograph again. Oh, by the way, this is Ella's twin that we saw on the census record, and he actually was the best man for their wedding. So, instead of adding this picture 4 times to Ancestry, what that does is, it may not seem like a big deal when it's only 4 times here, but what it does to the amount of space when everybody is adding multiple copies of the same photo over and over again is it's increasing Ancestry's need to add to their databases to be able to hold more. And that ultimately will increase our cost as consumers. The other issue is when you go to search for these people, it's annoying sometimes that you'll search a name and the entire first page of the search results is the exact same photograph. So to help clean up the engines and keep everything streamlined and running nice for all of us, and to make our search results more effective, the way to avoid that is to add the picture 1 time and then to come here and just link it to everybody who is in the photograph. And then you can just add each and every person, and you're only adding the photograph 1 time. Later, if you find that it's relevant to other people and you want to attach it to other people, you can come back in and edit and add it to more people. But, or like if I haven't added them to this tree yet, obviously they're not going to show up in my search box right now, so I won't be able to add them. But if I add them later, I should come back and then attach them rather than adding a new photograph. So that's just a tip there. Okay, so once you have that all looking the way you want, you have it attached to all the correct people, you have your citation on there, then you just hit this little, sorry, the screen is in my way. There we go. All right, so then you just add them right there. And now look at that, you have a little icon there. That is just more interesting to look at when you're scrolling up and down this timeline and it has a whole bunch of little thumbnails. 2 things that's going to do. First, it's going to add interest. Second, it allows people to view the documents. If I come in and I say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and also add the marriage license, I can click here, go back into the file, and this time I'm going to records and I'm going to add the marriage license, and I'm going to say this is a document, and I'm going to fill all of this out, and I'm going to attach Leo, and then now I also have that record. So when my family comes and looks, they're not stuck out of the letter. They'll actually, anything that you attach as an image like this, they'll be able to open and view those, and they just have to click on them. And now it shows this image for them, and it gives them any details that you've added over here, and it shows them who you've added it to. And there's even a space here where they can put comments, where they can say, oh, I have more wedding photos and what have you. And they can share with you, you can communicate with each other and talk to each other by adding these comments and pictures and records. They're going to be able to see them and share. So that's a good thing. I said there was 2 ways to do it. So one way is, like I said, to come right here to the edit button, just click on it and add your image there. Another way is to come up here to this top toolbar to this gallery button, and you're going to click on that gallery button, and it's going to have all of the records that Ancestry attached. These right over on this side are all the images that are attached to my Ancestry records. Now, one way to quickly tell the difference is you see these two that I just added have little trash cans in the corner, and these do not. It's because these are attached to my records. In order to delete these, I would have to come here and actually delete them at the source. Move this out of my way. Right here, I would click the remove button. And that would take it out. Other than that, it's not going to take it out of the gallery. And again, if your family and friends click on the image here, this is going to pop up that please join Ancestry and give them their package choices. So they're not going to get to see that record, but they will get to see any of the records that you added over here. So this right here is our next place that we could also add media. We could click on this and we could go in and just add a whole bunch of media all at the same time. Let me show you what that would kind of look like. If I went in and decided I'm just going to add all of Ella's records at the same time, it would do this. And it's going to give me each of these windows, and it's going to give me a chance to fill out the information on this side. And then I can click on the next one, and it's processing up here. So you have to kind of give it a minute to get them all scanned in. Okay. And then once I click on this, it'll open this one and I can add the details. And then I can click on this and add the details. And I can click on this and add the details. And when I'm done, I will have all of those available in the gallery, quick and easy. Now I can come back to my facts section and I can start scrolling down and I can say, all right, from here, I want to attach this record, or let's go down here. Let's see. On the burial, I want to go in and I want to attach, where did it go? Ah, the headstone. So, whoops, I clicked on it. Sorry. Let me go back. Okay, so I click at it and then I click media. And then here I find the headstone. If I hit this little plus, it's going to pop it up there to the top, and you can already see here that it's added that thumbnail. I could also go in and add the death certificate, so I have multiple images there. I could change my mind and say, no, I don't want the death certificate there. I actually want the death certificate attached here to the death instead of the burial. So really pay attention to all the different life facts too. You can add in religious preferences here. You can add in things about their political preferences. You can add in, like I said, custom notes. There's all kinds of things you can go through and add to this to make it super interesting and valuable. And then if you have text on each one of these so that they're able to actually scroll down this timeline and kind of read the story of this person's life and read what's in these documents that you thought was so interesting about these documents. Another good tip you can use these for is if you're in the process of researching somebody and you want to remind yourself, like, need actual birth certificate, you can put in that kind of note to remind yourself. And then when you have the birth certificate, go in and replace it with details, or maybe even a note saying, have birth certificate in file. A note on that. I love the idea, if you have more records and you've gone and ordered all of the official documents and you have those rather than indexes and things like that that you might be finding on Ancestry, I love the idea of attaching that so that everybody in the family can open it up and see how cool these original documents are and all the special notes and details that they contain. But we also want to be super, super careful about whose records. If you have a living person in your tree, I would not recommend attaching a picture of their birth certificate to the tree. We want to try and reserve those for people who are deceased. A good rule of thumb that I like to use is when I ordered the record, if I had to provide my ID to qualify for the record, I probably shouldn't be posting it in a public place like this. If it was something I wrote to the county clerk and I said, hey, I want to copy this record, and they just sent it back to me, no questions asked, it's probably safe to put up because it's a matter of public record, so anybody could order it anyway. So that's just a rule of thumb that I kind of use on that. Okay, so let's see. Another thing that we can do is if we go here to gallery, we have a button here that allows us to upload a story. Now we can just click upload story and we can choose a PDF. Sometimes what you want to share or show is multiple pages and it's not one picture or something that you can turn into one picture. So at that point, you have the ability to go ahead and upload an already established PDF, and it's going to be basically the same format as uploading a photograph here. Keep in mind, though, that when the PDF displays, it displays kind of like this. If you upload Word and PDF documents, it's going to be something that when they click on it, it's not going to do it to me because it's mine. Okay, but when somebody else clicks on it, they're going to ask you to download it before being able to open it. So there are some people out there who are a little uncomfortable about, I don't want to have to download it to my computer to see what it is because of spam and attachments. For the most part, I think you're probably pretty safe being on Ancestry. I have not heard about any issues with catching any viruses or anything from downloading any of the records through Ancestry. So I think they clean those up through their own servers and they're probably relatively safe to go ahead and download. But you don't have to have one already ready. You could also create a story right in Ancestry here. You click the create button and then you have the choice of, again, either uploading or saying, I want to write a story. If you say you want to write it, it opens up this field so you can create a title. We'll call it Ella's Illness. You can pick fonts. You can pick font sizes and colors, bold, italic, all of those different things. We can even do bullets, but then I can go through here and I can start typing. So like, let's say I have like Ella here. Ella in her later years was confined to a state hospital. And so there's a lot of speculation in the family over what her illness was and what her condition. We have a couple of newspaper clippings that we've found referencing it. And we have the 1930 and 1940 census showing her in the state hospital. So the family lore portion of she was in this hospital has been proven, but we don't have the medical records to explain to us exactly what her condition was. There are a lot of family theories, and there are things like postpartum depression and menopause and things that they weren't as familiar with in the early 1900s that we know about now. But I might want to take all of those different pieces of information and evidence and family stories and family lore, and I might want to quickly type up a story here explaining what we have, what we've documented, what's rumor, what's authenticated. And that way, when I save it, type it all up, do your description, do your location, do your date. Again, you can attach it to as many people as are affected by the story or touched by the story. Then when you save it, you will have the ability, I don't know if it's gonna let me save because I didn't actually do anything. No, I have to order. Okay, so content. All right, so when we hit save, now we will have that story also available, and anyone who has access to the tree, if it's public, anyone will. If it's not public, if it's private, then anyone you invite to the tree will be able to open it and read everything that we currently know. And again, they can come over here to this comment section, and if they've got something to add, that they have a piece of the puzzle that your branch didn't have, or that you haven't come across yet, they can type it in, they can add it, they can attach. So, so that's a really handy thing as well. The next thing we want to do, or we want to be aware of, is down here, we have a section called web links. This is really handy for when you have something like, Ancestry used to have the ability, you could add an audio file directly to the tree as well. And apparently that has gone away. I'm assuming it's based on storage issues. But what you could do potentially is you could save audio clips of interviews with your family or videos, things of that nature that you have in your files by storing them on, let me pull up real quick here. Oops, no. This, I want to, all right, so Clip is a neat little site that you can go to that allows you to just save audio clips. Now, a lot of people use this as their place to save their personal music or audio things of that nature that they're creating and wanting to share with the public. But you could also create a family memories page here, and you could add little interviews with different family members about what they remember from different times. And imagine how precious that would be to you to be able to click on a button right now and hear your second great grandfather's voice telling a story about your sixth great grandfather or your fifth great grandfather. So to add these little audio clips and to get the ability to hear family members is really kind of a cool thing. So once you've done this, you can then, you could click on this and you could take, you can take the link then and go back to the page. And if you click on web link, it allows you to paste that link in and then give it a title and save it. And now anyone who's coming to the tree has the ability to click on these. Another thing that you can do, this bar keeps getting in my way. Another thing that you can do is go, if your ancestors served in this particular battalion of the Civil War, you can go search on trustworthy websites and find articles and information about that particular ancestor. Or if you can't find it about that particular ancestor, you could find it about that particular battalion, about that particular battle, about that particular war, whatever historical information you can find that touches on these people's lives, you should try and go, like I could come here to the Encyclopedia Britannica and type in my subject matter, find a link to a story, and then copy that and bring it back over here and add it as a web link. So if I'm talking about great grandpa Leo and his dairy farm, and there's actually articles on the internet about this dairy farm, then I would be able to link those and add another layer of personal and interesting information that people can click on and explore further. So, oh, this next one, I believe is maybe one of the things that Kelly was talking about is one of the newer features, and it's called tree tags. And if you come up here, you'll see a little blue button up here that looks a little bit like a gift tag. If you click on it, it opens up, move this out of my way. It opens up a dropout box here, and there's several different categories. And there are DNA categories where you could mark this person and say they're a DNA match or connection or common ancestor. You can mark them as an immigrant, that they've done military service, that they're royalty or nobility. You've got relationship tags like they died young, or this is a direct ancestor, or they had multiple spouses, or they were adopted into the family. There's all these very or predetermined tags that Ancestry has gone through and added, and all you have to do is click on them. I might say that, okay, I'm actively researching her right now. And that way I remember later when I come back and I have some time to sit and research, this isn't somebody I was done with, I was in the middle. When I'm done, I might change them to complete and take off the actively researching. Now, the other reason that this becomes a super valuable thing is that anything you put in these tree tags is searchable. So when I hit the tree search, not my record search over here, but where I'm trying to search for members of the actual tree, I click on the tree search and I've got a filters box here. When I click on that filters box, look what's there, the same tags. So I could go through and be like, I want to find all of the people that I'm actively researching, and there's Ella. And it's going to bring me up a list. So if I can't remember who I was working on actively, I can pull it up. I can also, if I've gone through and I've marked all of my military ancestors in my tree, I can select that military button here, and it's going to pull up all of my military ancestors. So this is a really neat way to categorize and sort and find things. If you're trying to do something and they don't have the tag that you need, they went in and they actually gave us the ability, let me hit cancel on this, and we'll go back into the tree tags. So hit that button once you've started, if you want to go into edit. So now I can come up here and I can click create custom tag, and it's going to give me a box that I can put a name in, and then a description box that'll help me remember what I was describing. So one of the common things that I will do, especially because I do a lot of misattributed paternity, and we'll get down to a point where adoptees have to start reaching out to the various relatives and requesting additional DNA or requesting knowledge and assistance, things like that. So I will search for current contact information on any of their living ancestors that I find, and then I will mark them as contact info. And that way, if the adoptee is sitting down to say, okay, who can I reach out to and who should I be talking with, they can do a search and say, who has she found? Let's close out of that one. Who has she found contact info for? And they can quickly pull up a list of everybody that I've been able to allocate contact information for. At the same time, we have the ability to add notes and comments to each file. So if I have contact information here, I might go in and add a note saying, here are the top 3 questions that we would like this ancestor to answer for us if you're able to get a hold of them, so that they can then find this ancestor, looked on the list and find the contact information that I've added, and then look at my notes and say, this is what she's needing to know to progress. And so I can contact that ancestor and not just be like, what do you know? And instead have articulate questions already set aside. If you're working with your ancestors, and let's say you've got someone in California and someone in New York, and you're all trying to work on this tree together, this can be a valuable way for you to stay on track and be like, hey, I've already ordered this document, I've already looked for this, and this is what I found. And then your collaborator can come in and they can add their notes to it and say, oh, well, you know, I went and checked this source and this is what I found. And you can keep this running conversation between you and the people you're working with. Your notes are only visible to the tree owner and anybody who has been given editor access to the tree. And we're going to go over that in just a few minutes as to what the different levels of access are. But editors and owners are the only ones who can read these notes. They do not show up to anybody else who can see the tree. But comments are visible to anyone the tree or the person is visible. So if you have a public tree and you're making a comment on a deceased ancestor, this will be visible to anybody on Ancestry who locates that ancestor and opens that file. If it's private or it's on a living member, then these comments will still only be visible to the people who've been invited to see that particular person. So let's take a look real quick. We're going to switch trees for a minute. And if it will load for me. Oh, no, 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 no. That's not acceptable. Ah, that's better. Okay, so this is Ella in my actual tree. And you can see there's Leo and her kids. If we click on this, it's going to show me her siblings too. You have a couple of buttons out here that are new too. If you're using DNA and through lines, you can opt to turn that on. Same with DNA, possible DNA matches, you can opt to turn that on, or connected DNA matches. All of that is DNA related stuff though, so we won't get into that tonight. But if we go into Ella's page here and this tree, you can see that I have added text and pictures and records, and that we know a little bit more about Ella's life. We now know that Ella was born a twin and that her father is accused of committing suicide when she was only 17 years old. She was married at 18 and became the wife of the local milk dealer in Wilmette, Illinois. Her twin brother went on to create the lens for the Palomar telescope, which basically started our space program here in the United States. Imagine what that's like. And that's another good point. When you're doing these trees, don't forget to research the siblings and the children and everything too, because part of understanding Ella might be understanding what it's like to be the twin of a renowned physicist while you're struggling to keep up a relationship and raise children, and what that does to the mind, and like what it must have felt like to her, and then to be committed to a hospital after that and all of this. So we learned some really fascinating and interesting things about Ella, and she becomes a three-dimensional person because we start to see how she fits into her family, how she relates to her siblings, how she relates to her children. We get all kinds of neat pictures here that we've been able to go in and add of her and her family. And this gets a little bit telling. This is Ella right back here. And if you remember her on her wedding day, she was a tiny little slender thing. And in later pictures before her commitment, she's swollen up to somewhere close to 300 pounds. And so that leads us now in current medicine to say, oh, she had a thyroid condition. But back then, who knows what they were thinking about her and what pressures they might have put on her to maybe look different. So all of these things come into play into creating a three-dimensional character. Now, once we've done our work, we have added our pictures, we have added our stories, we've added our web links connecting her to history and to maybe an obituary or something of that nature. So what do we do with that now? How do we make that an interesting gift? Well, one option that is built in is right here. It's called Life Story. And when you click on it, Ancestry goes through and they have put together basically a story for us. They've taken everything that we've typed in and all of our documents and records, and they've attached it. They put a little mini family tree in here so you can quickly see your connection. You can write, and each of these boxes has a little edit so you can clean it up and make it your own. They've put in a little map showing the different places that Ella was in her lifetime. And they tell us the story. Now we can simply be done here. We can come up to this print button and we can click print, and it's going to give us a printable version of the same thing we just saw. and that's something that we can pass out in a newsletter and share whatever we want. We can customize it. We can either keep or lose the tree. We can keep or lose the map, the events, the historical insights. It actually goes through also, and in addition to what you've added, it adds anything that it thinks. I don't know if I have any left on her. Here, it tells me the Great Lakes storm of 1913. In 1913, Ella Inez McCauley was living in Wilmette, Illinois, when a devastating storm furiously slammed the Great Lakes. So this could be a lead or a tidbit that takes me off and gives me something to research and see, can I find any connection? Where specifically was the storm and where was she, so I can get the relationship? So those are great little bits. So you can print this off right on your printer and be able to share this with family or put it in a heritage book or what have you. Or you can come up here to publish with My Canvas, and it lets you go in and order family history books, calendars, family tree posters, all sorts of things. And those can make lovely gifts for family and friends that help show off all your work, or they can be beautiful things you hang in your own home. The other option, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a moment. The other option you have is that you can create your very own heritage books. And you can order beautiful binders or use basic ones, whatever you want. You can put protective sleeves in, and you can add photocopies of the records you have. Or if you use archival safe sleeves, you can even add, maybe if you have more antique articles in your possession, whether they be pictures or records, you can put them in there to help keep them safe and have a safe way to display them without people getting their oily fingerprints on them. You can create tabs, and you can add in little accessories, like they have these really, really cute, thumb drives that look like antique keys, and you can save digital copies of all of the records to those and then share those with the family members. You can also, let me see, I'm going to go ahead real quick, and in chat, I am going to share a file. Maybe I am.
I just put it up.
Did you? Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay, so that is a copy. It gives you some ideas. It gives you the place where I order the binders from, so you can look into that if you thought that those were cute. They have all different kinds of designs, and you can go through and shop for the design that you think is cute, and it lets you personalize. Oops. So you can add your own name, and you can even personalize the binders and the spine. And so these can be really, really cute records, record keepers, and a way for you to share with the family and create a book that's interesting for them to flip through. So that handout that Sina just put in the chat, that breaks down all my sources on that and how I do what I like to use for my heritage binders. Hopefully you'll run with that and maybe find out some even cuter things to do. I think that is it for my presentation today, though. So I'm going to go ahead and open up for questions if we have some time left for that.
Yes, we have about 20 minutes that we can do the Q&A.
Okay.
One of the questions was, how did you split the screen?
Okay, let me go back to sharing real quick, and I'll do that again. I moved through some of this stuff kind of fast because I was afraid I wasn't going to have time to get it all in. Keep in mind, the video from this class is going to be available under the members only website, another perk of membership. You will have access to this video at least through January. So you can pull it back up and watch it slower and pause things, but let me go ahead and do the screen share really quick so I can show you how that was done. All right, so when we are sharing a screen, the first thing we have to do is we have to open 2 screens. So we have our tab here, and we're gonna go ahead and just open it up to Ancestry. A neat trick too, if some people don't know this, is that if you come here, when you first log into the Ancestry page, the very last person you are working on is gonna be right here. So you can just jump straight to them. I love that speedy little trick. So I'm going to close out of this. And we're going to go back to that. Okay, so I have Ancestry open on this tab. Let's say I want to transcribe like we were doing earlier. I would first come to this plus, and I would just open Ancestry again. And I would go to the same person, and I would pick the document that I'm wanting to transcribe, and I would go ahead and open it. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to put my mouse right up here in this top toolbar. I don't know what color it is on yours. Oh, hold on. We have to separate these first. All right. So grab one tab and pull it with your mouse. You're just clicking on it with your mouse and grabbing it, and that separates it. Now, when you pull it to the side of the screen, and you can see it's making this ghost image out there as you pull it, just let go when you see that. Anything else you have open on your computer is now a thumbnail, and you can choose any one of these you want to be on the second side of your screen. So I'm going to click the document, and it's going to pop up all big. Now, when I'm on this side and I click into this, it's going to allow me to do whatever I need to do, zoom in, what have you. If I come over to this side and click, now I have control to click in this side, but this doesn't go away. It stays right there so that I can view everything I need and see things as I'm clicking into this box and typing my additional notes. Another point while I'm in here, I'm just now seeing this. Remember, when you click on Life Story, it adds everything from your timeline, and it allows you to edit. You can take them out there, but you also can do that here. You could choose as you're typing this to take it out of the life story or to include it in the life story. And then you can decide whether it's going to automatically generate the text or whether you're going to turn that off and you're going to type what's going into the life story right there. So that's 2 different options. You can do it as you're entering it right here, or if you're like, I don't really know yet until I get the whole thing done, so I'll come back and edit it in life story. Either way. I get it. And then when you're done sharing, you can grab and move these around, or you can just close one of them out and oops, and then go to this one and make it big again.
One of the next questions was about your media. And I think you answered it. And then he asked a second question. It says, first of all, will it also, it being the picture, be added to the gallery? If
Yes.
I want to do the best man only on the gallery, but not on Ella's, not mixed with Ella's marriage fact, will it?
Gotcha. Okay, so in whatever you add over here is going to pop up in your gallery also. You do have the ability, like when I come up here and I click on the profile picture to add a profile, come on, I have the ability to size the photo. See, that's actually the full wedding photo, but I just sized it to Ella only for this. And in Leo's version, I just sized it to just Leo's face. Even though it's the same picture, it's only in there once. I saved it to Ella. I saved it to Leo, that same one copy. But then when I go into their profile, I can zoom in on different parts of that same picture. See how Leo is, actually, I used a different picture for him. So you get to pick and personalize. Now, when you come down to this list, I wish you could do the same thing here and pick, like I zoomed in on the wedding photo for their twins photo. but I couldn't make it do that on the side myself. So I had to actually take this to Paint and crop it. And just cut out that piece and add it so that I could have the picture of just their two twin faces together instead of the wedding photo. But yeah, you can zoom in and select just a piece of a photograph out of a gallery for the profile, but unfortunately we don't have that much control over the thumbnails that are attached to the timeline yet. So you could attach it here and attach it in another place where it's relevant, but it's going to show the whole picture each time.
Then he asked, can I add the census image from the gallery to the fact, or do I have to save it as media first?
Okay, so no, the Ancestry version will not allow you to save, if it's just the one that's attached here. Let's go back in. Okay, so it's one of these down here that doesn't have the little trash can. That is not going to show up on your list of options. You would first have to save it as an image and then upload it again. So you will find when you go into some people's, like if you look at mine, you'll find the 1910 census there and you'll find it again down here because one copy is Ancestry's copy and one copy is my copy so that I can actually see the image. Now, again, the one thing that I would caution on that is number one, make sure you are citing those. Those are protected documents and those are what you're literally paying for with an Ancestry membership because it does cost them so much to gather those records for us and to digitize and store them and all the rest of it. So be cautious, but also same thing with the pictures. Don't upload the same 1900 census to each individual person in the family. Load it once, attach everyone to it so that you're not bogging down their systems with the records they're already paying to store for us.
Thank you. What if you learn that the census information on your great grandfather is wrong, that they never married, or this is that their religion or anything like that? How do you deal with that?
So that is not terribly uncommon. Remember that these censuses, there's a lot of really valuable information, but we do not know who provided it in each case. So it could have been the kids of the house were answering the census taker. It could have been the babysitter. It could have been the neighbor. Sometimes they had situations where somebody in town would be like, oh yeah, no, those are my cousins. I can go ahead and answer for them. And maybe they are your cousins, but do you know all of your cousins' birthdays exactly? I don't. So sometimes that information is off and sometimes they fibbed a little bit because maybe it wasn't socially acceptable to not be married. And so they reported themselves as married when they weren't. So yeah, you do have to watch out that sometimes you're going to find these facts. I think the very best thing you can do is when you're adding your timeline information, make sure and draw attention, say this particular fact is in the census and based on this other record we have or personal family knowledge or whatever it is, we know that this is not an accurate fact and this is the accurate information, and have that discussion. If you can do it within the space allotted, that's fine. If not, I have been known to go through and click on this custom event, and I've added like 5 or 6 custom events in a row in the timeline just to explain something that I felt needed to be explained in the story. So that's what those are there for, is to help you complete your story. Don't be afraid to use them. The other thing that you can do, and this is a really, really good idea, is when you open a census and you see that the information might be wrong on it, look for, hold on one second, where is it? I'm not seeing it here. Okay, usually you would have a comment section, but you always have them on the actual person. So either attached to the record or attached to the person, add at very least a note to yourself and anyone else working on the tree, but also add a comment so that all of your other cousins out there who might be behind you on their research, you can save them the headache. If you figure out, oh, hey, there are exactly 2 Ella and Nez Macaulays born in the same year in the same town, and it's really super confusing. If you figured that out and you unscrambled it, add a comment, share that information. It's most useful to you if all of your cousins are on the same page with you, and if you're working together or working with the same information, and you don't have to fight the struggle of somebody out there passing down over and over again bad information because they got caught in this loophole that somebody else could have saved them from. So add those comments.
Justice, you can add an edit on the image.
I know on the image. Yeah, I know on the image.
Make a comment on the record section, not on the image section.
Okay, hold on. So when I go into, oh, right. I'm
View the record, report a problem to the left.
Yeah, I just, as I was opening it, I just remembered. Okay, so when you find something that is off in the record, she's correct. There is another option, and that allows you, like, I don't know if anyone caught it earlier when I was mousing over on the 1900 census. Somebody who transcribed it, they recorded George as being 17, but they recorded Ella as being 13, even though it clearly says 17 on both of them. So typos happen, mistakes happen. So what you do is you come over here, you see this section underneath the image, you click view or add alternate information if you just think that somebody got it wrong or the information was originally entered wrong. And you click the button saying add your own. It has you choose which data you think is wrong, and you click it, and then it has you select a reason. Either it was a transcription error, or it was an error in the actual image, or the information is not as transcribed. But you can put the reason in, you can put the corrected information as you see it, and then you can save it. Now, when anybody comes to this record, they're going to see Ella I. Macaulay, and then underneath it, they're going to see any other names that was changed to, or if it's the birthday that was wrong, they're going to see what was originally entered, and they're going to see all the other options that people have said, no, it's not that, it's this. And that allows you to look at that closer and weigh it yourself against what you have and say, you know what, I agree with that person. That information's not right. Or, no, I think the original information was right. You get to weigh that out. So thank you. I appreciate the help on that. I had completely drawn a blank.
You can also edit on the image section. If you go into view,
yes,
at the very bottom, there is a little button you can push.
Let me see. Let's go in there and show that real quick.
Down at the bottom to the right of 25 of 42.
Ah, okay, hold on. Sorry about that. Let me push this real quick.
No, not that one, the other one.
There we go. All right, so yeah, you can come in here and click into these fields if I'm not mistaken.
You see where 17 is in brackets, you've already corrected it, or somebody has.
Yeah, there you go. And it'll show it right there, and you could click edit and you could change that if you wanted to come back and change it. But that is, and I think that was one that I actually put in that I was like, no, those are both 17. So, so yeah, there's multiple ways to go in, and I do encourage you. There's also another thing, hold on one second. Is it still there? It might be gone now. I think it was a beta, and I'm not seeing, yeah, I'm not seeing it anymore. Okay, for a little while there was a beta that you could sign up for, that within the hint section, if you accepted or declined a hint, it had a pop-up box that you could explain why you either chose to accept it or decline it. And I think that was helping them with with research or with writing the algorithms. I'm not sure, but that seems to be gone now too. This changes a lot and on a regular basis. So don't be afraid to get in there and like check it from time to time and make sure you're like looking for new buttons popping up on you, because they're constantly coming up with new and better features. Do we have any more?
Yep. Lynette asked, if you have a public tree, does the public see the tags?
Yes. So if it is a public tree and you are working on a deceased person, or if it's a tree that you've invited, oh my gosh, we never went to show people how to share. Let me do that because that's also part of this. All right, so if you're looking to share your tree with a friend, a family member, somebody who's helping you to collaborate, anything like that, you come up and you click on this, whatever you've named the tree will be right there, and you click on it and you get a drop-down menu. And one of the options you're going to get is sharing. And you're going to go ahead and click on that and then click on invite people. There's 3 different ways you can invite. If it's somebody who already has an Ancestry account and you know their username, you can click on this and you can type in their username, or you can click this and get a list of everybody you've shared with in the past so you can find them quick and just click on them. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said guest, contributor, and editor. If you invite someone to your tree, you need to select what permission level you're giving them. There are people in your family who you want to look at your tree, but you do not want them to touch it. That person would be given guest level. They can come in, they can look all they want, but they cannot change anything. They cannot add anything. If you have somebody who you feel, well, this person has some great pictures and stories, and I want them to come in and add those pictures and stories to the tree, but oh Lordy, I do not want them moving things around and changing dates or adding people because it's just going to get all messed up. So I'm not giving them editor level, I'm giving them contributor. That's going to let them post comments, read comments. It's going to let them add images. It's going to allow them to add stories, all the kind of neat things that we did today. They're going to be able to do a lot of that stuff, but they will not be able to change dates. They will not be able to change names. They will not be able to add people, delete people, any of that major stuff. The editor has every single permission you have. They can do it all. They can add people, they can delete people, they can change information, they can add pictures, they can do it all. So you can invite by username. You can also go in and put in an email here and do the same thing where you select the access level. You can even make a little note to them and then you send off that invite. It goes to their email and they can click on it to accept. Another option is now the shareable link. You can go ahead and same thing, you can grant a level of permission. You can decide whether or not these people can see living people. If you click this button, then they can see every single person in the tree, even the living people. If you don't, then they can only see the deceased, and on living people, it'll just say private on it. But then once you create the link, it's going to create that link for you. Let's go ahead and create one. You can copy and paste that into a family newsletter, an email, whatever you need. If you are doing the shareable link, it allows you to select whether or not they can see private people as you're doing it. For some reason, these two do not. So after you've set somebody through email or username, you have to come up to this tree setting button and click on that. And it's going to give you your list of people, and it's going to have this box over here that lets you select whether or not they can see living people. It also, in this area, you can come to it to change somebody's level of access or to remove them altogether. If you've made a link, you can remove that link right here. So now that link is no longer, anyone who has that link, it's going to be dead now. They're not going to be able to access it anymore. So that gives you a lot of control over inviting people and also inviting them at different levels that are appropriate for what kind of help they're going to be able to offer you. Oh, and to answer your question on the other thing, the DNA tag, if you allow them to see living people and you have those tags on living, they'll see them there. So basically it's whatever permissions you've given. If you've given them permission to see that person in that file, then they'll see the DNA tags too. If you haven't given them permission to see that, they're not going to see the DNA, or I'm sorry, the tree tags either.
You must have been talking about notes at this point. The comment was, I thought others could not see your notes.
No, the only people who can see notes are going to be the owner of the tree and any editors. Remember just now when we were selecting the level. So if they have an editor level, they will be able to read any notes that for the trees they have editor level to. But somebody who has just guest or contributor, they're not going to be able to read your notes. Other people who visit your tree, if it's a public tree, will not be able to read your notes. Those are kind of your private, think of them as your work notes. That's the behind the scenes stuff. The editor, anybody you grant editor status to will be able to see them because of the fact that it's work notes and it's a way for you to be able to communicate and work together. So they do have access to those. Lower levels do not, and people visiting a public tree do not. They can see the comments, they cannot see the notes.
Can we print off the members only notes?
You mean like what we were just discussing?
I'm not sure. Sylvia, if you would unmute your mic, then you could answer that question for her. If you're still here.
Yes, in the members only file, you're going to add your notes. Can I go in there then and print those off?
That's what I was just looking, and I'm not seeing any kind of print option. Let me move this bar out of my way. I'm not seeing any print options here other than you know how to print your screen. You could do at this point, come out here and right click and go down to print. That's going to print the entire screen though, not just the notes, but the notes will be in there.
Can I do a copy and paste?
Yes, you can do copy and paste. Absolutely. And that's a good way if you're sharing notes and collaborating with somebody, you can go in and grab and copy and paste those and put those into another file that you're working with so you're able to print them and manipulate them.
Betty Greer asks, what is your opinion on incorrect trees? Should information be given to correct?
I feel like, okay, so if the person is sharing, I try not to share my trees until I've gotten them to where I feel like they're correct. So if I share a tree and then I still have incorrect information somewhere in my tree, I value somebody adding a polite comment saying, hey, I noticed that you had da-da-da put, and I actually have this particular evidence that says different. The reason I would phrase it that way is two reasons. Number one, if I've already come across what you came across, and then since then I came across something even different, you've opened yourself up now for a sharing interface instead of like, people can get combative and they can get defensive about their work. And so to say, hey, I found this record that says something a little different, I think that's perfectly helpful and exactly what this community is supposed to be about. But when I have somebody coming at me and being like, you're so stupid, that's not right. Well, now my feathers are going to get up in a cackle. And if I've since found out that person's not right, maybe I'm going to get a little snotty back. And we don't want that. We want a friendly, cohesive, cooperative environment. So yeah, absolutely. I say if you find a tree and there's incorrect information, it could be somebody who's new and who just doesn't know. They're trying and they're learning. I remember what it was like for me when I first got on Ancestry. and I was trying to figure it all out at the same time. It was overwhelming. And some people were really gracious about commenting in a polite way and giving me guidance and help. And other people were kind of rude and snotty about it. And so I would hope that we would all go out there and try and be friendly and helpful.
Thank you. Can you make a comment on the record section on Ancestry, not on the image section?
There, on the comment, like on a record like this, would you be able to go in and actually add a comment? Is that the question?
That was from DD. So if you are still here, you could unmute.
Just go ahead.
I don't know what the question was that I had asked.
Oh, well, on the records themselves, if you come into the record itself, you have a couple of different options.
Oh, no, I was just commenting that you can make it on the record. We went through that.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that, where you can go in.
Yeah, that was just a comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you share or send a link, does the person have to have a login for Ancestry?
So when you send a link to somebody who does not have an Ancestry account, when they first come to Ancestry to accept that invitation, it's going to invite them to create an account. I like to give everyone a heads up that that's going to happen, because some people get freaked out and think that they have to get a paid account, and that's not what it's saying at all. You do have to set up an account to get in to see other people's trees, but it can be a completely free account. It does not have to be paid in order to view other people's trees. But yes, it will prompt you to create an account if you don't already have one.
I think that's it.
All right, well, let me stop sharing. Let me move this down. I really appreciate y'all letting me walk you through this class today. I love Ancestry, and so this was a lot of fun for me, and I really appreciate you letting me ramble.
Thank you, Justice.
Justice, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
This is Becky Clark. I want to say I commend you for paying so much attention to your tree like this. I rarely look at that timeline that's on the left-hand side of the page, because it usually doesn't contain anything useful, or it repeats, or it has misinformation. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you add so many details to that, I think is terrific. And another pet peeve I have is when people add documentation, but they don't really tell you where it came from. Exactly. Or they have some sort of stupid Ancestry link that doesn't tell you anything. Exactly. They'll put in a page from a history book, but they won't identify where they got the history book. And so I spend more time trying to look for where these people found this information, when it's easy to just put that out to the side. And if it's found on Ancestry, yeah, it's so easy to provide a link directly to that. So many documents are found in books that really have nothing to do with the state that you're looking in. It's a book that involves the entire region. And if you can get that link to that Ancestry document, it's a wealth of information. But people just don't seem to understand how to cite something properly. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I do one more note that you just made me think of on that. On the timeline, sometimes I get frustrated too, because sometimes you'll be going through and attaching a document and it automatically adds something to the timeline that is redundant or useless. And I'm like, I don't want that there. You can go through on each one of those events. Under the edit box, one of the options is delete. So if it puts something in there a second, third time that you didn't want, delete it. And then remember to go into the box to attach it to the correct place. So all of the things are attaching to the one instead of trying to attach to it 3 times. You can clean all of that up. You can make it beautiful. And then if you're going to make one of these heritage books, you can either write a bio for each person, or you can just print that out once you're done with it, print it and slip it right in the front sleeve, and that is your bio for each person.
Great.
Justice, this is Dee Dee. I just wanted to say, I've been doing genealogy for 57 years. I do teach and have just started doing the description things that you've been talking about. And I've been teaching people or trying to get them to do that. But I learned so much more today from you. Everybody just keep learning, because
Yeah.
there's always something more. Even if you think, oh, well, I already heard that class, or beginners, you always come out with something. And this was a fabulous class. Thank you.